Are you wondering if you're doing the best exercises for your core and pelvic health? Hi, I'm Dr. Melissa, and in today's class, we're going to be going over trade this for that to get you the best results to build true lasting strength in your pelvic floor. These are things that I wish I had known when I was first starting out on my pelvic health journey. I used to do a lot of these. I was taught these in physical therapy school. And then once I continued to learn more about how the core and pelvic floor works as a system, I found out why these weren't helping and getting the best results possible. Because our core and pelvic floor likes to work together. It's a system. There's so many different connections that go into this system, like our hips, our spine, our breath, our nervous system, and so much more. So we're going to be going over 3 different trade this for that, and you can follow along, you can take some notes, really just tune in to what you are feeling with your body and how it's making you feel. We're going to do before and after. The first exercise that I would trade this for that is going to be, maybe you've heard it before, pull your belly button towards your spine. You need to strengthen that transverse abdominis. Engage your core all of the time. Let's go ahead and give it a try first, and then I'll explain why this might not be the best results for getting true deep core strength. And again, I used to use these all the time. I used to do these exercises. I was taught them, but once I learned a different way, I found it to be so more effective. So if you're laying down, you've got that, draw your belly button towards your spine. Maybe you're thinking of engaging that core. Contract those abs. And just see what you're feeling. What do you notice? Is there tension building? Do you feel your core? Do you feel your pelvic floor? What are you noticing as you're doing this? Do you notice if the stomach pushes out or you're having bulging or lots of pressure going down? This is very common that I see with a lot of my clients. So let's go ahead now and try something a little different. You're going to take a block or a pillow and go ahead and place that in between your knees. Now what I want you to do is think of taking a breath out to the sides, the front, the back of your rib cage. And then when you're going to exhale, I want you to exhale like you're blowing out some candles and squeeze in around the block. The same thing, check and see what you're feeling a couple times. We want to make sure we're not seeing the bulging, pushing down. When we're exhaling, we're getting that gentle lifting up. Nice breath in, sides, front, and back. Exhale. Squeeze in around that block. Let's just do one more here. Maybe you need to scoot the feet in a little bit more. Make sure you're not completely jamming your back against the ground. We want to be in that neutral position. Nice breath in. Exhale, squeeze around that block. Nice job. Now come on up from there and just see the difference between the two. When I'm working with people, you get a lot of pressure and bulging down with that first pulling your belly button to spine, and maybe you don't even feel your core. When we tighten and brace and keep everything super tight, it's not allowing our core system to work like it wants. When we breathe in, pelvic floor muscles lengthen as our diaphragm comes down, and as we exhale, the diaphragm comes back up and contracting the pelvic floor. So it's this relationship that's constantly working. So if you're keeping these tight all of the time or just pulling that belly button towards your spine, it's not letting it go through what it likes to, and it's going to increase inter-abdominal pressure, making the pelvic floor muscles too tight. When this happens, that tension and tightness, this is what I see a lot of times with my clients, is their pelvic floor is too tight. Maybe you have been somewhere and you just need to strengthen your core and do more Kegels. You go and do Kegels, you strengthen the core like we just did, squeezing and doing more Kegels. Well, your pelvic floor is already too tight, it's up. And then when you're trying to breathe, you're not able to feel that connection with the breath going down. So you're squeezing and just making it tighter. And this is why Kegels are not working for you. Or maybe sometimes they might even make it worse. It's not allowing the pelvic floor to lengthen and then contract and come back up with the movement of our diaphragm. And that lengthening piece is so important. And another big thing that I see missing with people is that eccentric lengthening. So if I have my bicep muscle, eccentric strengthening is when you're lengthening that muscle coming out. It's really making the muscle work a lot harder in the lengthened position. We need to train our pelvic floor to lengthen and strengthen in that lengthened position. So that first exercise where we kind of just belly button to spine, brace and gripped, isn't allowing the system to work like it should. The second one that we did, when you get your adductors, your inner thighs, you're using the power of your breath, the position of your neck, the position of your pelvis, even how your lips are positioned, plays a role in what you're feeling in your pelvic floor. There's even been research out there that has shown that the second way we did it, by getting the adductors and using your breath and that max contraction there, recruits much more of your core and pelvic floor than just pulling your belly button towards your spine. So give that a try next time you're working on pelvic floor strengthening. No more belly button to spine. Get those inner thighs and your breath involved, because it is an entire system and we need to work it like a system. So number 2 that I would trade this for that is something to do with our hips. So there's a big connection between our hips and our pelvic floor. One of our deep hip internal rotator muscles attaches into the bottom of the pelvic floor. So if our hips are tight, pelvic floor is going to be tight. Our glute muscles and our pelvic floor, they're like BFFs. They work together. So maybe I used to give these. I was given them when I was in physical therapy. Clamshells. Have you heard of clamshells? You've been given the clamshell exercise too. They're a good exercise. They're definitely going to work those rotators of the hips. But we're missing a big component here. This, what's called internal rotation of our hips. This movement where the legs like to come inward towards each other. A lot of my clients hold tension, they grip, they squeeze their glutes. Maybe their feet are turned out a little bit and there's lots of tension in those deep external rotators of the hip. Clamshell is doing that same movement, rotating the hip outward. So you're already strengthening a already tight muscle. We want to work on those internal rotators as well. So an exercise, we're going to do kind of a retest here. I love doing these to see what exercises work best for you. I'm going to show you a couple different options to look at internal rotation of your hips. We're going to take a block or a pillow, place it in between your knees. You can first slide the feet out towards the side. And when you do that, check in at the front of your hips. Check in at your low back, your pelvis. What do you feel? What do you notice? How far can you bring those legs out? Bring them back in. Slide them out, bring them in. Another way to look at this, if it feels okay, is bringing those legs up so your shins are facing the ceiling. You'll squeeze the block and bring those legs out to the side. Does one side move further than the other? Maybe they feel the same. Maybe they both feel tight. Maybe you notice some pinching in the hip. Maybe you notice something in the low back. So I'm going to pick the side that I'm always working on. So my left side is tighter. If you have a tennis or a lacrosse ball, what we're going to do is do some myofascial release work along the top of our glutes here. So we're going to take the ball and just place it just below 2 or 3 inches below bell line on the side that was a little tighter for you. And then you'll bring that knee in towards your chest. So I'm doing my left side. And you're just going to explore different range of motion, bringing that leg in and out. Maybe rotating the leg in and out. Maybe it's enough just to kind of hold and sink down into it. Maybe you straighten that leg, bring the leg back down. Just gently moving in and out. And we're looking for that like, ooh, I can tell that's tight. It's kind of that hurt, but feels good. And with myofascial release techniques, 30 to 60 seconds is plenty. It's not doing more is better in this case because you can overhydrate those tissues, making things feel stiffer. Nice. Let's just take one more breath here. rotating, moving that leg all over. Nice. And then place that foot back down. Take the ball out. You can definitely do both sides if they were both equally tight, but we're just gonna come back, grab the block or the pillow. Now, if your feet were down, keep them down. If you did the lifted test, we're gonna squeeze the block and bring it out and just see, does it feel different? Does the leg move further? Does it feel easier with your breath? Like all those small little things, what's different from when we first tried this to now, definitely can go a little bit further. And maybe that exercise didn't help with that one. Maybe it did. And that's the thing, is finding what is working best for you. So the exercise we did with the block between the knees, bring the legs out, that is an exercise that I would give someone. So it's a test, but it's also an exercise that you can work on to build core and pelvic floor strength by adding in the hips. So that is number 2 that I would trade this for that. So I would swap clamshells and I would start working on both mobility and strengthening of the hips, especially with that internal rotation component. And the third thing that I would trade this for that, I talk about this all the time, is breathing. Breathing is key when it comes to your core and your pelvic floor system. And oftentimes when we're stressed, when we're in pain, if we think we're gonna have a leak or we have to run to the bathroom, we grip and we hold everything really tight. And maybe we hold our breath in our chest. Maybe we just hold our breath. Maybe we do big belly breaths. And what this does is it's increasing inter-abdominal pressure. When we have too much pressure, it leads to pelvic tension and gripping. So we're not getting that lengthening, what we mentioned before, that eccentric strengthening of the pelvic floor muscles. I always start everyone out in breathing, and it can be very frustrating because it seems like it's so simple and should come right away, but it can take some practice to get the breath down, especially if we've created these habits throughout our day where we are creating that pressure, we are tensing, or we are holding, and just learning different ways to do it so that it optimizes this system. And then we also might have to address other areas that have connections into the pelvic floor. Maybe you suck those abs in all the time and we have to work on releasing the upper abdominals. Maybe it's the hips that we just worked on. Maybe it's the feet, the nervous system, and so much more. Because when we address those areas, then we're better able to feel the connection with our breath. So let's give that a try. I just want you to start sitting and just take your hands, place your hands at the bottom of your rib cage and take a breath in. And exhale slowly, let it go. Awesome. Take another gentle breath in, and you're imagining that your rib cage is kind of like a balloon. It's expanding out to the sides, the front, the back, all different directions, and then it's coming back in. As you're breathing in, the diaphragm's going down, lengthening those pelvic floor muscles. As you're exhaling, the diaphragm's coming back up with the contraction of the pelvic floor, and just gently moving in and out. Think of the breath going all the way down towards your sit bones and see what you feel. What do you notice? And it's perfectly okay if you're like, Melissa, I seriously don't feel anything right now. That's totally fine, because like I mentioned before, maybe we have to go and address another area first to come back to the breath. Laying down is much easier than sitting and standing. Practicing this breathing takes gravity out of it. Sometimes we have to address tight mid-back, the hips, the feet, to come back to the breath. So don't get frustrated. Consistency is key with breathing. So let's just take one more breath at 360 degrees around, expanding out like the balloon, all different directions. Breath is going all the way down to those sit bones. Nice breath in. And then exhale, let it go. Okay, we're gonna come and do an exercise for the test and retest and come back to the breathing and see if it changes at all. So if you've got a pillow or a block for the next one, you don't need it. But what we're gonna do is work on relaxing and lengthening pelvic floor muscles. So just take that block, place it underneath your sit bones. And then you're gonna bring your knees in towards your chest. It should feel super relaxed, very easy to stay here and hold this. And just gently pull those knees out towards the side. Nice breath in. And exhale, let it go. So we're looking for a gentle stretch in those inner thighs. You're pulling those knees in towards your chest. And I want you to think of sending your breath all the way down to those sit bones, low back area. If you've got the block, kind of like double duty, I like doing some release at the top of the glutes. Nice breath in, exhale, let it go. Just softening and relaxing. Each exhale, see if you can sink and get a little heavier. Nice breath in. Exhale, let it go. Awesome. Take one more nice breath in. Exhale, let it out. Just seeing if you can feel that lengthening a little bit more. And it's not pushing, we're not bearing down. It's just this gentle lengthening. Let's bring those legs back together. Place those feet back down on the ground. Lift those hips up. And let's come back to that seated position and just see how the breath feels now. Is it any different than when we just tried? So finding a comfortable seated position, placing the hands at the bottom of your rib cage, and just take a couple gentle breaths, expanding out to the side, the front, the back. And exhale, let it go. One more out to the sides, front, back. Sometimes cueing with your hands can be helpful. Just give yourself a little feedback. And then exhale, let that go. Nice. And don't get frustrated if you can't feel it right away. There's so many other, these are just a few of my favorites that I see continuously over and over again, but there again is so much more to the core and pelvic floor system. So for number 3, trade this for that. I would trade chest and breath holding for that 360-degree breathing that we worked on. These are 3 tools that you have now to start working on and practicing to really build a whole body true strength for your pelvic floor. And I would love to know, which one are you going to try? Let me know down below in the comments. If you are wanting to learn more techniques like these, different strategies, you are definitely going to want to check out the description box below. We have lots of different resources for you here. I'll also put a link up above here for our new app that is coming out. Go ahead and join that up there. Keep up the good work. Until next time.